Alright, I'm gonna go through some troubleshooting tips and how I got my first rig up and running. So, first trouble I ran into was the screen was just black, no signal, nothing. And the problem was pretty simple. I had to activate the integrated graphics in my CPU so I won't have to use an HDMI cord on the actual GPUs. So on your BIOS, also assuming that you got everything almost set up and running, got all your cables in place, and you're just waiting to install that first graphics card. So before you go for that first graphics card, you want to go to integrated graphics configuration. That is if your motherboard or CPU supports integrated graphics, or it has it already. And you just want to turn this on, enable IGD multi-monitor. That was the first problem that was solved quite easily. Another quick thing you might want to do while in the BIOS system is change your link speed. I got it on Gen 2 right now. That's what I've been working with for the past almost day and a half. It's been mining without any problems. Also 4G enabled, you want to have that on. Something that I read, I believe was in HiveOS website, is the boot option. You want to make sure it's on the SSD storage that you got it on. It was on default, it was to UEFI hard disk. Just go with hard disk, no UEFI. Alright. Okay, for the most part that was all. I was even trying the CMOS, clearing that. None of that worked. It was just this simple. Turning on the integrated graphics. Alright, so the second problem that arose for me was while installing the fourth card, basically. Once I got the fourth card on and Hive booted up, it wasn't opening the server X. That when it's open, that's when it starts to mine. So it was just telling me that HiveOS was starting a new job, I believe, and just wouldn't get the other window up and running for it to mine. So the problem with that was my BIOS. It was just out of date. It was probably from 2016. I believe this is the most recent BIOS for this motherboard, at least that was the latest one on their website. But before that, I had another problem. I'm not gonna do it right now. When I go into MFlash and I plugged in my USB storage device, the motherboard would recognize my USB, but it wouldn't recognize the file inside, basically the BIOS update. I tried reformatting the USB to different formats, FAT32, NFFS, something like that is the other name. I tried using other size of USB. Tried with a 2 gigabyte and 32 gigabyte USBs. None of that helped me. It just wouldn't recognize the file. It would recognize the USB but not the file. So how did I get around that? So doing some reading in the interwebs, mainly Google, I guess, as the new daddy here. So Google taught me to go to update the BIOS via DOS. I believe that's what it's called. I'm gonna try and link all of that in the description below. So, assuming there's a link down there, you click on the link and you download the DOS to update the BIOS into a USB. Now, for my specific motherboard, I was looking at a video from MSI showing more or less the same problem that I had, and they did the same thing, updating the BIOS through DOS. So what they did was clean up the entire USB, reset it, put it to FAT32, copy the DOS terminal into the USB, copy the BIOS update into the USB, and finally you want the flasher. There you go. That's the final file you want in that USB. So the flasher that worked for me, I tried a couple of different flashers and none of them was working, was the, I believe is the UDE, something like that. I think I'm gonna try to have that in the link in the description. 232, something along those lines. So you have those three files in the USB stick: the DOS terminal, your BIOS update, and the BIOS flasher, all in the USB. Once you got that into place, you want to disconnect the SSD with the Hive OS and just have your USB plugged in. Reboot and let it load up. If it's not loading, come back over here and put the boot priority to the USB. Now when it boots up, it's gonna boot up in the terminal. And in the terminal, I'm gonna have in the description below the commands for you to write in the terminal. And after you do that, it should basically update and you should be good to go from there on. So once you're done doing that, or at least once I was done doing that, I didn't had any more problems with the rig. And it's been mining since a day or two ago. So I guess that's pretty much it. Another thing I might want to add in is coming here to the fan settings and making sure they're on 100, all of your system fans, so they could get that max airflow in there. And that is all. Alright, hope you got your rig fixed, and even better, hopefully you don't go through any troubleshooting. If you got any tips for me, any recommendations, please let me know.